Hi guys, I'm back, believe it or not, to help process my clay. Now it's been a couple days, not because of the clay needing to settle more, it's mostly just because I've been teaching a lot. So here we are, we got our buckets, and I just picked it up. It already started stirring up some of that stuff at the bottom. But what I've noticed is it also settles really fast too. So we're gonna process this clay. I brought a couple more tools because even though I could use a board to dry it out, people use like a cloth and some brick. A lot of options. I have my strainer we saw last time, and I have this one. I meant to bring a bigger one, but your big brother stayed where I left it. Also, I have plaster bats. So these I use, and you can see there's different colors clay, different color of clay on them. I use these to dry out clay when I'm processing stuff. So in a class, you end up using a lot of clay, but so much of it you end up recycling, especially when your students are newer to pottery. There's a lot of learning mistakes. So do I want to really call it a mistake? I don't want to call it a mistake, but we learn from it and then we recycle it. So it's all good, but you have to be able to recycle and process it. So someday I will get a glorious pug mill. But for now, I just have my plaster bats. These are a special kind of plaster. You want to make sure that you get a clay plaster, mostly because it handles moisture differently than other plasters, and it's going to have better longevity. One thing I've noticed is, you may notice, one is a little bit thicker than the other. This one's a little thicker. The one that is actually thinner tends to dry faster. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I also have I have an old wheel that uses plaster tops. We call them bats. And they dry the fastest. They are smaller. They tend to be 8 inches around or across, somewhere in there. And they just dry super fast. I don't know if it's the different clay, or not the clay, but the different plaster. So it's a mystery to me, but I brought these. I think it'll be enough after I drain off the water. So let's go ahead and get going on that. Okay, so we're gonna keep dumping out some liquid, which is good because there's some sticks and grasses on top. So we're just gonna dump those out. Is there some clay dumping out too? There is. Now we're getting a little bit thicker. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do next, I might switch buckets, just maybe, to my little bucket, because I doubt I'll need too much. I don't have a ton. I didn't start with a ton of clay. The 2-bucket system. We'll see if it works. And it might be the perfect size. Oh my goodness, it fits perfectly. This little dude fits nicely in the bucket, as long as the bucket doesn't tip over. Oh boys, my dogs are right here. Okay. That was pretty wet. It's kind of tilting, so. Oh, I'm getting some good debris in there. There's a lot more grass and stuff. I don't know if you can see that, but ooh, as I drip. So right now, this is the consistency of slip. Slip is basically watered down clay. It is great if you're trying to attach pieces together instead of just using water. And now we're hitting some of the thicker stuff. So I might have to help pour it out. Oh, there's not a ton in there though. So that's going good. There we go. Ooh, that's like almost perfect clay right there. Not a ton though. You'll be amazed at how much a lot of this sizes down. Ooh, but that is almost like pudding. I'm gonna move so you can see. And this is probably good enough. I might just put this straight on the bat. I have the bats right here. See if I can turn the camera down without getting it too mucky. Nope, can't do it. So we'll just get that out. Okay. So I know it's kind of weird to have wet and then dry, but that's kind of the process of clay, because since it does expand and contract, get big and small, it grows and shrinks. That's how in my first video you could see that it was clay. Glad I put my apron on today. Okay, so this is about how much I've gotten out right there. It's not a ton. You can make a nice little pot out of it. I do have more of the dry clay though, so that is a plus. It is really soft, so I'll probably have to add some temper to it. Let's see if I can turn the easel. There we go. So just the top layer, I'm being really careful because there was some grit in the bottom. So I'm just going to take the rest of that to my itty bitty bucket and kind of pass it through, because I don't want too gritty in there. And then I think we'll do, let's see. I think I'll do the orange bucket here and just pour that in, because I want to filter it through a couple of times. And this is really sandy, really gritty. Most of this will probably be tossed out. And just kind of dirty in there. And now I'm just going to use my hands. This reminds me of when I was a kid. My parents had an old dryer vent, and they gave it to us because it was ripped and they had to get a new one. And so we would take, and we'd always sift dirt through it. We would pretend we had cooking shows, and we would use it to grate stuff. And believe it or not, because of that experience, I use different kinds of screens and stuff for a lot of things that I learned how to do when I was a kid. Okay, so now I think we got it mostly out. What we have left is chunky rocks. Could I wash them and see what they are? Yeah, but I think it's just a lot of grit. So I'm just going to dump that out next to my garden. And if I want to be kind to my screen, I'll probably rinse this out before I let it dry. Okay, so I'm going to clean my hands off on the grass here, because even if I get a little bit of the rock or sand or whatever it is in my clay, that's okay, because it's all going to be temper. And if you don't know what temper is, temper basically, see, I think that's good enough just to put on the plaster bat. Temper is the rough stuff in clay. If you're doing raw clay, you definitely need to have temper, because when you fire it, in order to, ooh, that was more wet than I thought. Ooh, that's all right. So temper is needed. It's going to help your clay, it's going to help your clay last a little bit better. Now that's pretty liquidy. I could be patient, and anyone in my classes know me, you know me, I'm not patient. I'm just going to move this over, kind of poke some holes in it. It helps it dry faster. And this plaster is already helping this thin layer to dry faster. Okay, so I might just set that. Let's see if it'll separate a little bit more. Okay, this is pretty liquidy too. So I want to be kind of careful with this. I think I might have to let this sit a little bit and dry some more, just so I can dump off more of that liquid. So yeah, processing wild clay, it's a bit of an effort, but it's also kind of fun, just like when I was a kid with the dryer screen. You just kind of are playing, honestly. And that's the thing with being an art teacher. I feel like art is all about wonderment. And learning some of these old things that people could do would definitely be wonderment. Yeah. If you're like, okay, you have all these buckets, you have all this stuff, but Crystal, why, how would the Native Americans do this, or people from the past? Well, that's a great question, because they probably didn't have buckets exactly like this. They would have eventually had clay vessels. Before that, it would have been basket weaving, and we can see signs of transition of that, because a lot of them, around the time that you start seeing clay remnants in archaeology, you start seeing that there's a lot of cultures in Japan, here in the US, like the Native Americans. They look like woven baskets, but it's made out of clay. So were they trying to recreate the baskets that they love so much? Did they carry the clay in their baskets? We just don't know. They probably wouldn't have sourced it too far away, but we know that trade was a big deal for a lot of those hunter-gatherer types. Sorry, I got stuff in my eye. So they found a way. They probably would have set it on a rock to let it dry. As I said, I'm not patient. I want to see what will happen, because this is already drying out. I don't know if you can see that, but that liquid that I put on there, look at that. That's already dry. So maybe I'll go ahead and just give it a go. It does kind of look like a thick, melty chocolate. I just pour a little bit softer. Now, to get this up, it's going to be kind of hard to scrape up a little bit, not too bad, but I can use a clay tool. I am outside, so it's going to dry a lot faster. So I'm just going to keep processing this and working with it. And yeah, as you can see, it's a little messy, but it's a lot of fun. So if you are interested in processing clay, I would suggest taking your kids along the journey with you, because some of the oldest one of the oldest clay sculptures was found in a cave, and it is of some buffaloes, and because of the footprints that were left behind, you can tell it was a family that built it, because the kids, you see little tiny footprints, and they're gathering the clay, and then you see adults, and you even see the mark of the back of the thumb, which is such a fantastic tool to use to smooth out your clay or take out wrinkles and stuff. But make this a family event, because it's fun and it's gross, and what kid doesn't love fun and gross? Okay, so I'm gonna keep working this. Okay guys, so I just finished rinsing out my buckets. I've been processing clay. My buckets are clean, and this has only been a few minutes of being on there, probably maybe a total of 6 minutes. You can see how quickly this clay is drying out. It's also pretty hot out here, but that's looking awesome. As you can see, I did not process a ton of clay. Oh snap, I thought it was so much more.